Good morning, guys. Today I want to talk to you about the signs of the time. I will first say that I am aware that nobody knows the time of the Lord's return. It says in Matthew 25:13 that no one knows the day or the hour, and I'm not trying to spell out that time. I want to talk to you guys about all the unusual things that are happening right now. It's like a dress rehearsal out there. It's absolutely amazing to see all the things that are happening right now. It's like things that we've read in the Bible all of our life. It's happening before our eyes. And I'm not saying it's amazing because of COVID and all that. I'm talking about spiritually. If you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it talks about the signs of the times, the signs of the end. It talks about the signs to the church, the signs in the world, the signs in the heavens, and the signs in Israel. And Israel specifically is what I wanted to talk about. I know people in America, we think that everything is revolved around us, that everything that's happening, that we're going to be, the determining factor of the return of the Messiah, but we're not. Sorry to bust your bubble. Everything is revolved around the Jews and around Israel. Yes, it's true that we send out more missionaries than anybody else. We're preaching the gospel. We have a significant number of Christians in America, and we support Israel. We're funding the church. All of that is true. But the things that are going to happen is going to revolve around Israel and around the Jewish people and around the festivals and all of that. So if you remember the verse that Matthew and Luke both refer to the same verse about the budding of fig tree, it's interesting because Matthew refers to it as when the tree limbs are tender and they give forth their leaves, it's a sign that summer is near. And Jesus spoke that as a sign of his return. And Luke called it when the bud is showing, when a fig tree is giving forth its bud, you'll know that summer is near. And it's interesting because the fig tree is one of the last trees to bloom in the spring. Well, in the summer, it starts blooming in the spring. So when it starts blooming, that's it. Everything else has already been blooming. But when that fig tree starts blooming, summer is near. And I think that's really interesting because all the things that we are seeing right now, there's many of us that's been saying, because of things in the Bible, that we will see the rapture in our generation. But never before have we seen so many things that is causing the Christians in the church to say that it has to be soon. And this is not just a few people. Everywhere you look, people talking about it. Even people that don't understand are asking questions and saying, what is going on? And even the people that may not quite believe are recognizing that something's making sense, so that everything is adding up. They're getting it. So what I wanted to explain is Trump just, I believe it was last week, signed a peace treaty. I've had some people asking me, is this a 7-year peace treaty? Nope, I don't think it's a 7-year peace treaty that's talked about in Revelation and Daniel. It has to begin with the Antichrist signing the 7-year peace treaty. It's a false sense of peace. It's not the same peace as shalom. It means that things will seem at peace, but it's a false sense. And yeah, I know some of you might think that Trump is the Antichrist, but he's not. You have to go read. He doesn't meet the qualifications. So don't be jumping up in arms saying that Trump's the Antichrist and he's just signed the 7-year peace treaty. It's not him. But it is interesting that this man is in office at a time of signing this peace treaty, which will lead to the next peace treaty. It's also interesting that he signed or declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And all the presidents before him were just passing that paper along. They wouldn't acknowledge it. They wouldn't sign it. They just kept passing the buck, basically. But it obviously was meant for this time. Do you realize that when he signed the peace treaty, it was for Jerusalem to be the capital and to move the embassy? This was 70 years after Israel became a state in 1948. It was also the people in Israel, they minted a coin with his face on it and Cyrus, and they were calling him Cyrus. And it's interesting because when Daniel had the 70-year prophecy and Cyrus declared that the temple could be rebuilt, God himself said, and it was quoted and written in Isaiah 45, it says that God himself said, I will raise up a king. He will be named Cyrus. He will free my people and rebuild the temple. Interesting enough, Trump is the 45th president. And I'm not saying that he's a king, but in today's modern, he would be, being the president, that is significant that God said he would raise up a king to free his people and rebuild the temple. And here came Cyrus many years later, did exactly that. It was prophesied in Daniel. Daniel was given a vision by an angel. He wrote it out. And jumping forward of the 70 weeks, which is a week is 7 years, so 70 times 7 is 490. The first 69 weeks have already been fulfilled. That last week will be the 7-year tribulation. And it's just so interesting, and it can only be God, that Trump would be in office at a time that not only could he declare Jerusalem as the capital, he would do it exactly 70 years after they became a state in 1948, and that he would do it in a Jubilee year. Because in 67, when they had the 6-Day War and took back possession of the land, that was a Jubilee year. Jump forward 50 years, that's the year that Trump declared Jerusalem as the capital. And you just can't make that up. It's not a coincidence. It couldn't have been planned. And it's interesting, it's just interesting how it all plays out. So I just wanted to point out that there are things happening right now that we can't explain. We're seeing things line up. We're seeing the talk of the cashless society, as you all know. I won't get into all that, but everything's leading up to go into the one world government, the one world monetary, even a one world religion. And if you don't see everything laying out before you, open your eyes. I mean, we are close. And again, I do believe that all of this revolves around what happens with the Israelites and the Jewish people. And it's just not about us, guys. It's not about America. It's about the Jewish people. And you need to watch Israel. You need to watch what's happening in the festivals. You need, we have the Feast of Trumpets coming up soon. We have I'd urge you maybe to really, really, really be praying, fasting in these days leading up to that. And just open your eyes. And if you have family and friends, this is one thing that has just become a passion of mine. Pastors are preaching all over about accept Christ and, what happens if you don't. But one thing I'm not hearing very much is what happens if the rapture happens and you're left behind. And that's one of the things I've really been trying to urge people. Tell your family and friends, if they're left behind, do not accept the mark of the beast, which will be some kind of technology that will be required to buy and sell. That's another thing that the Antichrist will demand, is that he is worshipped as a god, and he will require you to take what's called the mark of the beast, which is a chip or some other device that's in the right hand and or the forehead. And I just want everybody to know, if you take that, it is absolutely too late. You've accepted the Antichrist as your Savior and your God, just as we accept Jesus as our Messiah. So be sure, if you're left behind or have friends, family that won't listen to you, that don't believe, just please tell them, don't accept the mark, the chip, and be sure to accept Christ, because at that time they'll realize, that it did happen. And here's an interesting point I want to make real quick. I don't know if you realize it, but the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians all believe in waiting for the return of the Messiah. The Jews believe that it wasn't Jesus, so they're waiting on their Messiah. Obviously, Christians believe it was Jesus, and interesting enough, the Muslims believe that Jesus was the Messiah to the Jews, but they are waiting on someone called the Mahdi, that they believe will return and will rule for 7 years. and they will convert everyone to Muslim. It's just interesting that we all three are waiting on the return of the Messiah, and he will reach, and we all three believe, Jews, Muslims, and Christians all believe that the Messiah will return to the Mount of Olives. How interesting is that? So if you're not one of those three religions and you don't believe in something related to the Messiah, I can tell you you're in the minority, because those three major religions all believe the Messiah is coming, and they believe that he's coming to the exact same place, to the Mount of Olives. As a matter of fact, if you pull up on the internet and look, you'll see that the Jews are buried facing the Temple Mount and the Eastern Gate, and the Muslims are buried with their face the opposite direction. The Jews want to greet the Messiah as he comes and appears on the Mount of Olives, and interesting enough, the Muslims believe that they will rise up and they will prevent the Messiah from coming through the gate. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to go read the Hadith or the Quran, but just trying to cross-reference and line up. There's a lot of things that we believe are the same, maybe just a tad bit different. So anyways, keep your eyes open, pray, fast. If you haven't accepted Christ, I urge you, accept Christ. If you don't believe in him, then that's my goal, is to try to get the word out that if you're left behind, there will be another chance, but you have to accept Christ at that point and do not take the chip. Bye-bye.